and welcome to our presentation on understanding Indigenous culture in Canada. In this presentation, we will explore the rich and diverse cultures of Indigenous peoples in Canada and discuss how these cultures have been marginalized. Indigenous cultures in Canada have a deep connection to the land, which is reflected in their cultural landscapes. Their territories are characterized by diverse ecosystems, sacred sites, and cultural landmarks. Their architecture includes longhouses, wigwams, teepees, igloos, and earth lodges. The built environment includes ceremonial sites that are central to Indigenous spiritual practices and cultural traditions. Symbols, motifs, and artistic expressions are also often incorporated into the built environment. Water is an element that holds cultural and spiritual significance for the Indigenous. In terms of sustainability, they have traditional knowledge and practices related to water conservation and management. Traditional building techniques such as passive solar design, natural ventilation, and green roofs offer valuable lessons for contemporary sustainable architecture.
Changing human expectations about and demand of the built environment for marginalized Indigenous communities requires a multifaceted approach that addresses systemic barriers. Here are some strategies to consider. Recognize and respect the cultural values, traditions, and preferences of Indigenous communities in the design and planning of the built environment. Raise awareness among policymakers, planners, architects, and developers about the unique changes and challenges and needs of the marginalized Indigenous communities. Provide resources, support, and capacity building opportunity to help communities advocate for their needs. Ensure equitable allocation of resources and funding for infrastructure and housing projects. Foster partnership and collaboration between Indigenous communities, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and other stakeholders to address the complex challenges facing marginalized Indigenous communities. Prioritize long-term sustainability and resilience in the design and planning of the built environment for these communities. Incorporate principles of environmental and stewardship, energy efficiency, and climate resilience to ensure that infrastructure and housing projects are durable. As an interior designer, listening to and learning about marginalized individuals and populations requires a thoughtful and inclusive approach. Conducting surveys and interviews directly engage with the community members, and these workshops can provide valuable insight and foster a sense of ownership and involvement. Work with cultural advisors or liaisons who can provide guidance on cultural norms and help bridge any gaps between designers and the community. Design flexible and adaptable spaces that can accommodate the changing needs of the community and respect their cultures. This approach not only enhances the quality of the design but also contribute to the social equity and justice. Ensure that the representation of the marginalized communities in design narratives is accurate, respectful, and empowering.
There are some approaches for raising awareness to the public. One could be holding public exhibitions. These exhibitions and design fairs and community events that showcase interior design projects and engage the public in interactive experiences. This allows to create opportunities for dialogue, networking, and hands-on activities that allow participants to explore the principles and processes behind interior design. Another approach could be collaborating with media outlets, design publications, and influential bloggers, using these platforms to discuss current trends, innovative design solutions, and the role of interior designers in creating inclusive, accessible, and sustainable environments. Partnering with schools, colleges, and universities to integrate interior design education into their curriculum is another option. Workshops, lectures, and design competitions that expose students to the fundamentals of interior design, sharing successful stories and case studies. Community engagement and advocacy groups and policymakers can also help raise awareness of the importance of interior design in creating a healthy, inclusive, and sustainable space. Advocate for policies and initiatives that prioritize design excellence and accessibility. empower community members to participate in decision-making processes that shape their built environment.
In conclusion, as an interior designer, embracing a commitment to listen to and learning from marginalized individuals and populations is essential for creating inclusive, respectful, and responsive environments. Squamish Cultural Center and First People House is a great example for that. Building trust through long-term relationships, collaborating with local organizations, and continuously seeking and incorporating feedback are critical steps in this process. Ultimately, by prioritizing cultural competency, ethical consideration, and adaptability in our design practices, we can contribute to the creation of a space that not only meets functional and aesthetic standards, but also promotes social equity and justice.